Hi, it's Jessie. I'm back again. And I remembered what I wanted to say, where I fell off at the end of my last video. I remembered the most important thing I could say. I forgot to say, so I'm back to say it, right? The most important thing that you need to know when it comes to what happened to me with the school, with the doctors, with my children, the most important thing that you need to know is that when I moved here, I didn't know anybody. I moved here in December 2014. I didn't know anybody. I was surrounded by strangers. I hadn't done anything to anyone. When I went to the school to sign up my kids for school, they told me, don't send my kids with school supplies. And I was like, oh, that's so nice. You're so generous. But then I noticed, I sent my kids with supplies anyways because I already had their supplies, right? And then I noticed that they give you things so they can make accusations against you. This is the beginning stage of work in iniquity long before they even knew me, right? So the first thing that they tried to trick me with was the school supplies. Later on, after they sent all my neighbors in, I don't know them, right? My daughter's friends in, I don't know them. And they're all pretending to be people who they're not. I don't know them. They don't know me. And yet they're so willing to get involved in a case against me to make me into something that I'm not, you know? I didn't know them. I hadn't done anything to them, you know? There was no reason to attack me. No reason to set me up. No reason to work iniquity against me. It is that they were working someone else's agenda, right? And when I realized that they were working someone else's agenda, I went to the principal and I asked her, please don't get involved. Please don't get involved in this, because I knew that it tracked back with my Social Security. I knew that it tracked back to a case that was being made against me where I was experiencing all kinds of other iniquities where I couldn't even go to the doctor without someone making a false accusation against me, you know, prescribe me pills and then tell me to watch my drinking on them, that I really can't drink. And I'm like, I don't drink, you know. So you really don't know what anything's about, but everyone's coming against you. And I didn't know anybody. I hadn't given them any cause, you know. They were all working someone else's agenda. From the schools, to the doctors, to my neighbors, to the police. They were all working someone else's agenda. And now that I'm standing up and I'm speaking out, they want to cover themselves by claiming that I'm only speaking out because I want to cover someone else, that I want to protect someone else. My Delilah, you know. It's not I want to protect someone else. It is that I don't want to see this happen to any other child in the world, you know. I don't want to go through this anymore. I don't want to stay in this endless cycle where I can't be myself because it disproves their case. So they have to stay on me and gang stalk me and go throughout all of time to prove that I am who they said I am when I never was who I said I was, you know. I mentioned that I have a covenant with God. My covenant is to suffer for God. And I spend my whole life trying to learn what this means, right? And sometimes we learn what this means. It's so that we can cast the yoke off of us when we choose to suffer for God. It's we don't need to get involved in the fight. That we don't need to fight our own battles so much. That we just need to choose who we're going to yield to, who we're going to submit to, what's going to silence us, what's going to make us speak, you know. There have been plenty of prophets in the Old Testament who talk about their own arm delivered them, right? So it's understanding that though we may suffer for God, God's covenant is always the same. His covenant way back when to his covenant now, you know. Abraham couldn't have gotten into the promise of God will bless those who bless him and curse those who curse them, right? God, he couldn't have gotten into that without choosing to suffer for God, right? But there's got to be an understanding that suffering for God doesn't mean dying for man. There's, there's, the Abraham was lucky in his day. The king knew God in his ways, and so the king realized for himself what he had done was a sin against God and a sin against Abraham. And he made things right with an offering, but people today, they don't know God, you know? And knowing the prophets of old, I know we have a duty to warn, you know? I did warn. I asked them not to get involved, you know? You drive things out because you see someone and you look at them as though they're nothing, that their life doesn't matter, that their children's life don't matter, that you can just do whatever you want to do because you're going to get some favor from somebody, right? You're going to secure your power. You're going to, make alliances, strengthen alliances. But you do all these things at the expense of someone else. And while they say Jesus died for your sins, I'm not Jesus, you know? I'm not Jesus. I'm not going to die for your sins because God says, if I suffer for him, I'll overcome, right? So in that overcoming part, I have this understanding that I don't need to cut you down, but I do need to speak against these ways. I do need to open my mouth and speak, because if I don't speak like David, I suffer in silence and all my bones go out of joint, But if I speak, you stop. I'm condemning your ways. I'm not condemning you. I'm condemning your ways, even though, in my last video I said I have no forgiveness for you. I have no forgiveness for you, but I also don't have a choice in whether you live or die, I don't appoint myself as judge over you in that manner, but I do appoint myself as judge over what I've been through, and what I've been through is wrong, and so I'm going to speak to what I've been through. And that's the main point that I was trying to make before, that my words don't come, because when you're looking at your storm, it can be overwhelming. It can send you sinking, it can make you forget things, But when you remember your purpose, when you remember what you're here for, a new covenant, aren't you promised a new covenant somewhere in the Bible? What if I'm the one who holds it? I have a covenant with God. What if I'm the one who holds your new covenant and you're killing me? And you're killing me and killing me over and over again? What does that mean for your own salvation? What does that mean for the salvation of the world? I'm not yet who I could be, right? I have not yet reached my full potential, but I sure am not who you said I was, and I'm not going to stay where you said I could stay, should stay, have to stay. I'm not gonna bow to your will just because it suits your narrative, because you won't set the standard on my covenant. What you do to me sets a standard of covenant, and God will honor it if I accept it. So I don't accept it. That's the true importance, the most important thing that I can say of why I can't accept what you did, why I can't stay silent on what you did. I have a covenant with God. If I accept what you did, it sets a precedent upon my covenant, and it's not okay. It's not okay. It's not okay to say that, we can go after children. It's not okay. I'm not Moses. I won't say for 4 generations you can kill the children. I'm not Noah. I'm not going to curse the sons of the evildoers, I'm Jesse, and I'm going to say, you leave the kids alone. You don't do this. Because that's part of my purpose in this world, Maybe I'm not raised up high with a crown, and to be perfectly honest, I don't want your crown. I crown my God, I put that crown on my God, and I put up the sword of the law. I don't want to rule over people, but I do want people to be free of this oppression. I do want people to recognize that they have to be responsible for what they believe, that every life in this earth matters, that you don't have a right to kill someone just because they look like me, I suffer for God. You think it doesn't leave a mark? You think that I'm just going to be all full of beautiful, like Cleopatra or something? What do you think? You know, I suffer for God. The evidence is here. The evidence is clear. I've been suffering for God a long time, you know, long before I ever brought it to the forefront, you know. But it's understanding that I'm not getting out of this without you knowing who I truly am, because you're gonna keep killing me for someone I'm not until you realize you can't kill me for who I am. Prosperity is linked. The more you afflict me, the more your nation is afflicted. Prosperity is linked. You understand that? So much of you, so much of your choices, you know, is about anger at God when you don't understand that you've turned away from Him. You know, you think that justice is in your hands. You have to be responsible for the world that you're building, and it's not a good thing. You're rebuilding Nazi Germany. You're rebuilding the Assyrian Greek Empire. You got to be mindful of what you're building, because we all have to live with what you're building. And I'm going to be the first to stand up and say, I don't accept it. I don't want it. I see through you. You might have a righteous face, you know. You might give charity. You might show kindness to people. But what you do in the dark matters, because that's where your true character lies. That's where you show who you really are. When you do to people things that you think you won't be held accountable for. Things that you think are out of reach, that no one will know. That I don't matter. That's when you show your true character. And that wipes away all the righteous things that you did before. It tells me that you were just working in a parent. It tells me that you're phony. It tells me that you're exploiting and manipulating people, you know. It tells me that you don't belong in power, that you don't deserve privilege, that you don't deserve trust. Not that you don't deserve life. That's not my place. But these positions that you're holding over me, I knock you out of them because you don't warrant them, because of everything that you did to me. And I'm not afraid to speak, because I have this covenant with God, and because I trust God, you know, because I trust that He will bring me through it, you know. I trust that He has a purpose in this. I trust that the end will come. And because the end is not yet, we have some time where salvation can be found. And somebody said once, you know, back in 1998, that I'll be a great teacher and lead many people to salvation. And I can't lead anyone anywhere if I'm allowing this oppressive regime, these fascists, these Nazis, to stand. And you might take offense at what I'm calling you, but this is what you have demonstrated that you are. So instead of taking offense, take responsibility. Change things, you know. Turn away from these things. Don't get yourself involved with things, especially not a campaign against someone's life, because you have to be responsible for what you believe. You have to be responsible for what you do. Your own salvation is in your hands, but also the salvation of the nation is in your hands. You got to be mindful of things, you know. And that's all I'm coming back to say, you know. I gave them no cause. They were my enemies without cause, like David said. They worked iniquity. They attacked me. They attacked my kids. We can't let these things stand. If I never see justice in a court of law, I will speak against it every day. Every day. Every day. Words have power. You know, words have power even if no one hears them. Words have power. And so I'm going to speak and I'm going to say this is wrong. And somewhere, somehow, it's going to soak into somebody. Somewhere, somehow, it's going to make a difference. It's going to make a change. Somewhere, somehow, I have faith that God will do it, you know. And this is me putting my faith forward. So, now I'm done talking. Y'all have a good day. God bless.